My name is Mark. I am 57 years old, and I am standing in my son's front yard looking at everything I own scattered across the wet morning grass like garbage waiting for the truck. My wedding photo with Linda face down in the dew. My grandfather's pocket watch tossed into a cardboard box marked Donate. 35 years of memories thrown outside by a woman who married my son 3 years ago. She called it trash. She thought I was just a weak old man with nothing left. But she forgot one thing. I installed that security system myself. Before we begin, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I would love to know who is joining me on this journey. And if stories about family betrayal and finding your strength again speak to your heart, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe if you have not already. Trust me, you are going to want to stay for what happens next. Because what my daughter-in-law did that Saturday morning, it changed everything in that house forever. Let me take you back to where it all started. Not the day my belongings ended up on the lawn, but the years that built up to that moment. The years that made me who I am. I spent 35 years as an electrician in rural Ohio. Not the kind of electrician who works in nice office buildings with climate control and coffee machines. No, I was the guy who climbed utility poles in January when the wind chill hit -20. I was the one crawling through crawl spaces in August when the temperature inside felt like 110 degrees. My hands tell the story better than I ever could. Calluses on top of calluses. Scars from wire cuts and burns. Knuckles that ache every time the weather changes. There was this one time back in 1998 that I will never forget. I was working on a transformer box outside a farmhouse about 20 miles from town. Something went wrong with the grounding. The shock threw me back 6 feet into a ditch. I lay there staring at the sky, my heart doing something it had never done before. Beating so hard, I could hear it in my ears. The farmer's wife called an ambulance. The doctors said I was lucky to be alive. You know what I did? The next morning I went back to work. Because Derek had a field trip that week, and the school wanted $45 for the bus and lunch. My boy was not going to miss out, because his father was afraid of a little electricity. That is just who I was. That is who I had to be. I met Linda at the county fair in 1987. She was working the first aid booth, and I had managed to cut my hand on a broken fence post like an idiot. She cleaned the wound, wrapped it up, and told me I needed to be more careful. I told her I would be back tomorrow with another injury just to see her again. She laughed and said that was the worst pickup line she had ever heard. I came back the next day anyway. No injury that time, just a bouquet of wildflowers I picked from the side of the highway. We were married 14 months later. Linda was a nurse at the county hospital. She worked the night shift for years so I could take the day jobs that paid better. We were a team. When Derek was born, everything we did was for him. That little boy with his mother's eyes and my stubbornness. Linda used to joke that God gave us one child because we could not have handled any more. Looking back, I think she was right. Our house on Maple Street was nothing fancy. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a garage that was always too small for everything I wanted to fit in it. But it was ours. We paid off the mortgage in 22 years. Every single payment made on time, even when it meant skipping meals or putting off repairs on the truck. That house saw Derek take his first steps. It saw his high school graduation party. It saw Linda and me slow dancing in the kitchen on our 25th anniversary. No music playing, just the two of us holding each other. Then 3 years ago, everything changed. Linda started losing weight. She said it was nothing, just stress. But I knew my wife. I knew something was wrong. By the time she finally agreed to see a doctor, the cancer had already spread. Pancreatic cancer stage 4. The doctors gave her 6 months. She lasted 5. Those last months, I quit my job early to be with her. I fed her when she could not hold a spoon. I carried her to the bathroom when her legs gave out. I lay next to her every night, feeling her breath grow shallower, counting each one like it might be the last. The night she died, she squeezed my hand and whispered, "Take care of our boy. He needs you more than he knows." I buried my wife on a Tuesday morning in April. The sun was shining. Birds were singing. It felt like the world was mocking me. After Linda passed, I stayed in the house on Maple Street. I could not leave. Every room held a piece of her. Her coffee mug still sat by the sink. Her reading glasses were still on the nightstand. Some nights I swore I could smell her perfume in the hallway. People told me I should move on, find a smaller place, start fresh. But how do you start fresh when everything that mattered is already gone? Then Derek called. He and Brenda had just bought a new house in the suburbs. 4 bedrooms, 2-car garage, nice neighborhood with good schools for when they had kids. The only problem was the mortgage. They had stretched themselves too thin and they were drowning in debt. "Dad." Derek set his voice, carrying that same nervous tone he had when he was 12, and broke the neighbor's window with a baseball. "I hate to ask this, but we could really use some help." He wanted me to sell the house. I stood in the kitchen after that phone call, looking at the walls that had held so much of my life. Linda's handwriting was still on the inside of the cabinet door where she used to write grocery lists. Derek's height measurements were still penciled on the doorframe leading to the garage. But what good was a house full of memories if my son was struggling? What good was holding on to the past if it meant watching my boy drown? I sold the house on Maple Street for $180,000. I gave every penny to Derek. Every single one. I kept only what I could fit in 2 suitcases and 5 cardboard boxes. Our wedding album, my grandfather's pocket watch, the tools I had used for 35 years, a few of Linda's things that I could not bear to part with. Derek hugged me when I handed him the check. "Dad, this means everything. You will always have a home with us. This is your house too." I believed him. God help me, I believed him. When I packed up those boxes, I imagined a new chapter. I pictured Sunday dinners with my son and his family. I saw myself teaching my granddaughter Chloe how to use a screwdriver, how to fix a leaky faucet the same way I taught Derek when he was small. I imagined sitting on the porch with my son on summer evenings watching fireflies and talking about nothing and everything. I thought I would finally have a place where I belonged again, a family to be part of, a reason to wake up in the morning. The moving truck pulled away from Maple Street on a gray October afternoon. I did not look back. I could not. If I had, I might have never left. I told myself this was the right decision, that Linda would have wanted me to be with family, that the loneliness I had felt for 3 years was finally going to end. I had no idea what was waiting for me. The first thing I noticed when I arrived at Derek's new house was how big it was. 2 stories, brick exterior, manicured lawn, with one of those fancy irrigation systems. The kind of house I could never have afforded in 3 lifetimes. The kind of house that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Brenda was standing in the doorway when I pulled up. She did not come down to help with the luggage. She did not smile. She just stood there with her arms crossed, watching as Derek grabbed my suitcases from the trunk. "Hello, Brenda," I said, walking up the path. "Thank you for having me." She nodded once, did not say a word. Then she turned and walked back inside. Derek caught my expression and put his hand on my shoulder. "She is just stressed with work, Dad. She will warm up. Give her time." I wanted to believe him. I really did. They put me in the smallest bedroom in the house. It was at the end of the hallway on the second floor, right next to the laundry room. The walls were thin. I could hear the washing machine running at all hours. The room had a single window that looked out onto the neighbor's fence. No view of the garden, no morning sunlight, just gray wooden slats. "It is temporary," Derek said, setting down my boxes. "Once we pay off some debt, we will renovate. Make it nicer for you." I nodded and started unpacking. What else could I do? Let me tell you about Brenda. She came from money. Old money, as they say. Her parents owned a chain of high-end furniture stores up in Connecticut. The kind of stores where a single couch costs more than I made in 3 months. Brenda grew up with maids and private schools and vacations in Europe. She had never worked a day of manual labor in her life. I do not think she had ever even seen someone like me up close before Derek brought me home. From the very first day, I could see it in her eyes. The way she looked at my flannel shirts like they were rags. The way her nose wrinkled when she saw my work boots by the door. The way she said, "Your father," to Derek, never Mark, never Dad, like I was some stranger who had wandered in off the street. She thought she was better than me. She never said it out loud. She did not have to. The first real conflict came about a week after I moved in. I had brought a framed photo of Linda and me from our wedding day. It was my favorite picture of her. She was laughing at something I had said, her head thrown back, pure joy on her face. I put it on the mantel in the living room, right next to their family portrait. The next morning, it was gone. I found it in a drawer in my bedroom, face down under some old magazines. When I asked Brenda about it, she did not even blink. "It did not match the decor," she said. "This is a modern house, Mark. We have a certain aesthetic." I picked up the photo and held it in my hands. "This is my wife. She is not decor." Brenda shrugged. "Then keep it in your room. That is what your space is for." I wanted to say something more. I wanted to tell her that Linda had more grace in her little finger than Brenda had in her whole body. But Derek walked in at that moment, and the look on his face told me he did not want trouble. So I stayed quiet. I took the photo back to my room and put it on my nightstand, where Brenda could not touch it. That was just the beginning. A few days later, I offered to cook dinner for the family. Linda had taught me a few recipes over the years. Her pot roast, her chicken casserole, comfort food that tasted like home. I thought it might be a nice gesture, a way to contribute, a way to bring us together. Brenda shut me down before I could even finish the sentence. "We have a meal service," she said, not looking up from her phone. "Everything is pre-portioned and calorie counted. Your cooking is too heavy for our diet." Too heavy. Like the food my wife made, the food that nourished our family for 30 years was somehow beneath them. But the hardest part was Chloe. My granddaughter was 5 years old. She had Derek's smile and curly brown hair that bounced when she ran. From the moment I arrived, she attached herself to me. She wanted to hear stories about Grandma Linda. She wanted to see my tools. She wanted to sit on my lap and look at old photos. "Grandpa, tell me about the time you fixed the big lights at the stadium," she would say. Or, "Grandpa, can you teach me how to use a hammer?" Those moments were the only bright spots in that house. The only times I felt like I still mattered. But Brenda did not approve. "Chloe has a schedule," she would say, pulling my granddaughter away whenever we got too close. "She needs structure. You are disrupting her routine." I was her grandfather. I had raised a child of my own. I knew how to interact with kids. But apparently I was a disruption, an inconvenience, something to be managed. One afternoon, Chloe came running down the stairs with a picture she had drawn. It was me and her holding hands standing in front of a house with a big sun overhead. "Look, Grandpa, it is us," she said, her eyes bright with pride. Before I could respond, Brenda appeared out of nowhere. "Chloe, I told you not to bother Grandpa. He needs his rest." She took Chloe by the hand and led her away. Over her shoulder, she gave me a look that said everything. "Stay in your place." I watched my granddaughter disappear up the stairs, still clutching her drawing. I heard her bedroom door close, and I sat there in that too big living room, feeling smaller than I had ever felt in my life. The worst part was Derek. He was not a bad son. Not really. He was just absent. His job demanded 70 hours a week sometimes. He traveled constantly. When he was home, he was exhausted. Too exhausted to notice the little cruelties his wife inflicted on his father. I tried to talk to him once. We were sitting on the back patio after dinner, watching the sun go down. "Son," I said carefully, "I feel like Brenda and I are not connecting. Maybe if you could talk to her." Before I could finish, Derek's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and stood up. "Sorry, Dad. Work emergency. We will talk later, okay?" He never brought it up again. And Brenda, she knew exactly what she was doing. She knew Derek was too distracted to see, and she used that to her advantage every single day. One evening, about a month after I arrived, I opened one of my boxes to unpack the rest of my things. My tools were inside. The set I had used for 35 years. Each wrench, each screwdriver, each pair of pliers held a memory. Jobs completed. Problems solved. Money earned to feed my family. Brenda walked past my open door, glanced in, and stopped. "You are not bringing those rusty things into my house, are you?" she asked, her lip curling. "They are not rusty," I said quietly. "I take good care of them. They look like junk to me. Old junk from an old life." She turned and walked away, leaving those words hanging in the air like a bad smell. I looked down at my grandfather's pocket watch, the one he had carried through World War II. The one my father gave me when he passed. It was sitting on top of the box, catching the light from the window. I wondered what Brenda would call it. Probably junk, too. That night I sat on my bed and stared at the ceiling. The washing machine was running. The walls hummed. I could hear Brenda and Derek talking downstairs, their words muffled but their tone clear. Normal. Happy. Like I was not even there. For the first time since Linda died, I wondered if I had made a terrible mistake. As the weeks passed, the situation grew worse. Slowly at first, like water seeping through a crack in a dam. Then faster, more obvious, more painful. The thing that hurt the most was losing Chloe. My granddaughter was the only person in that house who still looked at me like I mattered. Her little face would light up when she saw me in the hallway. She would sneak down to my room after her bedtime just to say goodnight and give me a hug. Those small moments kept me going. But Brenda noticed. Of course she did. "Mark, I need you to limit your interactions with Chloe," she said one morning over breakfast. Derek had already left for work. It was just the two of us at the kitchen table. I set down my coffee. "Excuse me. She is becoming too attached to you. It is affecting her development. She needs to bond with her parents, not her grandfather." "I am her grandfather," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I am not some stranger off the street. You are also living in our house, which means you follow our rules." Brenda dabbed her mouth with a napkin and stood up. 10 minutes a day, supervised. That is what her therapist recommends. Therapist. Chloe was 5 years old. What kind of therapist tells a child she cannot spend time with her loving grandfather? I wanted to argue. I wanted to slam my fist on the table and demand to speak to Derek. But what good would it do? Brenda controlled everything. She had isolated me from the one person who still showed me affection. And she did it with a smile. My birthday came a few weeks later. I did not expect much. I never did. But a small part of me hoped that maybe, just maybe, the family would come together for an hour or two. A cake, a few candles, some conversation. Derek promised he would be home by 6. "We will do dinner together, Dad. Just the 4 of us." I believed him. At 4 o'clock, Derek called. "Something came up at work. Brenda said she reminded you, but there is an investor meeting I cannot miss. I am so sorry, Dad. We will celebrate this weekend, okay?" Brenda had never mentioned any meeting, but of course I could not prove that. I sat at the kitchen table that evening alone. Chloe had begged her mother to let her stay downstairs with me. Brenda refused. So it was just me and a small chocolate cake that Chloe had picked out from the bakery. She had chosen it herself, she told me, because chocolate was my favorite. I put 1 candle on it. Just 1. Then I lit it, stared at the flame, and tried to think of a wish. Nothing came. I blew out the candle anyway. When Linda was alive, she made every birthday special. Not with expensive gifts or fancy dinners, just with love. She would wake me up with breakfast in bed. She would write me a card full of inside jokes and memories. She would slow dance with me in the kitchen after dessert, just the 2 of us wrapped in each other's arms. Now I was sitting alone in my son's kitchen eating cake by myself while the washing machine hummed down the hall. I missed her so much it physically hurt. A few weeks after my birthday, I discovered something that made everything worse. I was walking past Derek's home office when I noticed some papers on the desk. Normally, I would never look at someone else's documents, but my name caught my eye, or rather the absence of it. The papers were credit card statements, Brenda's credit cards. I saw a charge for $23,000 from some designer store in New York City, a handbag from what I could tell. $23,000 for something to carry lipstick in. I kept looking. There was a charge for a new BMW Brenda's car, the one she had just gotten 2 months earlier, leased for $800 a month. And then I saw it. A vacation package to the Bahamas. 5 nights at a luxury resort. $12,000 total. For 2 people. Derek and Brenda. They had never invited me. My hands started to shake. $180,000. That is what I had given them. Everything from the sale of my home. My life with Linda converted into a check. They had told me the money was for their mortgage, for paying off their debt, for getting back on their feet. But it was not going to the mortgage. It was going to handbags and BMWs and vacations without me. I put the statements down exactly where I found them. I walked back to my room. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at my hands. All those years, all that sacrifice, and this was what it came to. I could have confronted them. I should have. But something held me back. Fear, maybe. The fear of losing Derek completely. The fear of being truly alone, so I stayed quiet. Again. Harold lived next door. He was 78 years old, a Vietnam veteran with a Purple Heart he never talked about. His wife had passed 10 years earlier. His kids lived in California and never visited. He understood loneliness in a way most people did not. I started spending more time with Harold. We would sit on his porch and drink coffee. We would talk about the old days, about wives we missed, about the way the world had changed. One afternoon, Harold looked at me with those sharp eyes that had seen too much. "I watch how she treats you, Mark. That woman next door. I see it through the window." I did not say anything. She does not respect you, Harold continued. And a man who is not respected in his own home is not really home at all. It is not my home, I said quietly. It is theirs. You gave them your home, did you not? You gave them everything. And what did they give you in return? A room next to the laundry and a seat at the kids' table. His words stung because they were true. A man's worth is not measured by what he gives away, Harold said, leaning forward. It is measured by how he stands up for himself. Remember that, Mark, before it is too late. I thought about his words for a long time afterward. A few nights later, Brenda called me into the living room. Derek was there too, but he was staring at his phone, barely paying attention. Mark, we need to discuss something, Brenda said. Her voice was pleasant, but her eyes were cold. Your belongings. They are taking up too much space. My belongings, I repeated. I only have 5 boxes. 5 boxes in the garage, plus your suitcases in your room, plus the clutter you keep leaving around the house. She waved her hand dismissively. It is becoming a problem. The garage is for our cars, not your collection. Those are not just things, Brenda. They are memories, my tools, photos of my wife, heirlooms from my family. She smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. Sentimental value does not pay rent, Mark. And this is my house. If you want to keep that stuff, you will need to rent a storage unit. There is one about 20 minutes away. I already looked up the prices. I turned to Derek. Son. He finally looked up from his phone. She has a point, Dad. We are tight on space. Maybe it would be easier for everyone if... He trailed off. He could not even finish the sentence. I stood there in my son's living room surrounded by expensive furniture and abstract art that probably cost more than my truck. And I realized something. I was not family here. I was a tenant, and not even a welcome one. The morning that changed everything started like any other Saturday, or at least I thought it did. Derek had left for a 3-day business trip to Chicago the day before. He hugged me at the door and said he would call when he landed. He did call once, then nothing. He was busy. He was always busy. I woke up at 6:30 the way I always did. Old habits from 35 years of early shifts. I lay in bed for a few minutes listening to the silence of the house. Then I got up, put on my robe, and headed downstairs to make coffee. Brenda was already in the kitchen. She was dressed, which was unusual for that hour. Her hair was done. Her makeup was perfect. She was sitting at the island with her phone in her hand, scrolling through something I could not see. Good morning, I said, reaching for the coffee pot. She did not respond. She just looked at me with an expression I had never seen before, something between satisfaction and disgust. I have made a decision, she said. I stopped, set down the coffee pot. About what? Your junk. She said the word like it was poison. It is going today. I have had enough. I felt my stomach drop. What are you talking about? I am talking about the garbage you have been hoarding in my house for 4 months. The rusty tools, the dusty boxes, the old clothes that smell like mothballs. She stood up, and I noticed she was wearing shoes. Nice shoes. Like she was going somewhere. I hired a crew to clear it out. They will be here in 20 minutes. You cannot do that, I said, my voice rising despite myself. Those are my things. That is all I have left of my life. Brenda walked past me toward the front door. I can do whatever I want, Mark. This is my house. Derek is not here to stop me. And frankly, even if he was, he agrees with me. He is just too polite to say it. That is not true. She turned and smiled. Are you sure about that? 20 minutes later, a white van pulled into the driveway. 2 men got out. They were young and burly, wearing work gloves and blank expressions. Brenda met them on the porch and pointed toward the garage. "Everything in there," she said, "and the boxes in the small bedroom upstairs. All of it goes on the lawn." I tried to stop them. I stood in the doorway of the garage, my hands up like I could physically block 2 men half my age. "Please," I said. "You do not understand. These things belong to my wife, my grandfather. They are not junk." One of the men looked at Brenda. She nodded. "Move him aside if you have to. I am paying you by the hour." They were not rough about it, I will give them that. They just kind of guided me away, one hand on each arm, like they were helping an old man cross the street. And then they got to work. Box by box, my life was carried out of the house and dumped on the front lawn. I watched them bring out the box with our wedding album. Linda's face smiled up at me from the cover before they tossed it onto the wet grass. The morning dew soaked into the cardboard immediately. I saw my grandfather's pocket watch land on top of a pile of clothes. The watch that had survived World War II. The watch that my father had given me with shaking hands the day before he died. My tools came next. 35 years of work reduced to a pile of rusty junk next to the recycling bin. And through it all, Brenda stood on the porch with her arms crossed, watching with that satisfied smile. I walked toward her. I was not sure what I was going to say. I was not sure I could speak at all. But before I could reach the porch, she raised her hand. "It is just trash," she screamed. The words echoed across the quiet suburban street. "You should have thrown it away years ago. You are living in the past, Mark, and I am done letting your past clutter up my future." I stopped. I felt like I had been punched in the chest. From the corner of my eye, I saw a curtain move in Harold's window. He was watching. The neighbors across the street were watching too. A woman walking her dog had stopped on the sidewalk to stare. I was being humiliated in front of the entire neighborhood, and there was nothing I could do about it. Then I heard a sound that broke my heart. "Mommy, stop." Chloe was standing at the front door in her pajamas. Her face was red and wet with tears. She must have heard the commotion and come downstairs. "That is Grandpa's things," she cried. "You are hurting Grandpa." Brenda's expression flickered for just a moment. Then it hardened again. She grabbed Chloe by the arm and pulled her inside. "Go to your room. Now. This does not concern you." "But Mommy..." "Now, Chloe." The door slammed. I heard my granddaughter's wails echoing from somewhere upstairs, and I stood there in the middle of the lawn, surrounded by the wreckage of my life, completely and utterly powerless. The crew finished their work and drove away. Brenda went back inside. The neighbors retreated behind their curtains, and I was alone. I walked to the pile and started sorting through it. The wedding album was soaked. Some of the photos inside were already ruined, the ink bleeding the faces, smearing into colored ghosts. My grandfather's watch had a crack in the crystal. My tools were scattered everywhere, some of them already starting to rust from the moisture. I picked up the photo of Linda. Her laughing face looked up at me through the water spots. I held it against my chest and felt something I had not felt in a long time. Tears. Real tears. Rolling down my cheeks and falling onto the wet grass. I sat down right there in the middle of the yard. I did not care who was watching. I did not care how pathetic I looked. I just sat there holding my wife's picture and cried. I do not know how long I stayed like that. Minutes, maybe. It felt like hours. The sun was fully up now, warming my back, but I felt cold inside. The kind of cold that has nothing to do with the weather. I thought about giving up, just walking away, leaving everything behind and disappearing somewhere. What was the point of fighting anymore? I had given everything I had, and this was my reward. Trash on a lawn, a daughter-in-law who despised me, a son who was too blind or too weak to see the truth. Maybe I deserved this. Maybe I had done something wrong somewhere along the way, and this was the universe paying me back. Then I heard footsteps. Harold was walking across the lawn toward me. He moved slowly the way old men do when their joints have seen too many winters, but his eyes were bright, alert. He stopped next to me and put a hand on my shoulder. We stood there in silence for a moment, two old soldiers surveying the battlefield. "Mark," he said quietly, "you remember something for me?" I looked up at him. "You installed those security cameras yourself, did you not?" I blinked. The words took a moment to register. Then I remembered. 2 months ago, right after I moved in, Derek had mentioned wanting a security system but never getting around to it, so I had done it myself. 4 cameras covering the entire property. Motion activated, 24-hour recording, cloud storage that I had set up with my own password. Brenda did not know the password. Brenda did not even know the footage existed. I stood up slowly. My knees ached. My back hurt. But something else was happening inside me, something that felt like fire. "She made a mistake," I said more to myself than to Harold. "A big one." Harold nodded. "Now you are thinking like a man who still has some fight left in him." I wiped my face with the back of my hand. I looked at the pile of my belongings still scattered across the lawn. I looked at the house where my son lived with a woman who had just tried to erase me from existence. Then I pulled out my phone. I had a call to make. I did not tell Derek what happened on the phone. Not exactly. "Son," I said, keeping my voice calm, "I need you to come home. Tonight. It is urgent." "Dad, what is going on? I am in the middle of..." "Tonight, Derek, please." There was a long pause. I could hear the noise of an airport in the background. Announcements, footsteps, the hum of a crowd. "Is everyone okay? Is Chloe okay?" "Everyone is fine, just come home, trust me." Another pause. Then, "All right, Dad, I will catch the next flight. I will be there by 10. I hung up and turned to Harold, who was standing on his porch watching me. "I need to use your computer," I said. "Mine is still in the house and I am not going back in there yet." Harold nodded and opened his door. "Whatever you need, Mark." His computer was old but functional. I logged into the security system and downloaded every video from the past week. The cameras had captured everything. Brenda meeting with the workers. Brenda pointing at my things. The boxes being carried out. The wedding album hitting the grass. My grandfather's watch being thrown aside like garbage. And there it was. The moment she screamed those words. "It is just trash." I watched it 3 times. Each time I felt the anger build a little more. Not the explosive kind of anger. Something quieter, colder, more focused. By the time I heard Derek's car pull into the driveway, I was ready. It was 10:15 at night. Derek came through the front door looking exhausted and worried. His tie was loose. His jacket was wrinkled. He had clearly come straight from the airport. "Dad, what is going on?" "Brenda said you have been acting strange all day." She said, "What did she say?" I asked quietly. Derek hesitated. He glanced at Brenda, who was standing in the kitchen doorway with her arms crossed. Same posture as this morning. Same satisfied expression. She said you agreed to donate your old stuff, that you were just being emotional about it afterward. He looked at me with concern. Dad, are you okay? Maybe we should talk to someone, a professional. I felt a flash of anger, but I pushed it down. Sit down, son. I have something to show you. Mark, this is ridiculous, Brenda said, stepping forward. Derek is tired. Whatever drama you are trying to create can wait until… Sit down, Brenda. Something in my voice made her stop. Derek looked between us, confused and uncomfortable. Dad, please, son, just sit down, both of you. I promise this will only take a few minutes. We gathered in the living room, Derek on the couch, Brenda in the armchair perched on the edge like she was ready to bolt. I connected Harold's laptop to the television. I installed the security cameras myself, I said, not looking at either of them. 2 months ago. You were busy, Derek. You said you wanted a system but never had time to set one up. So I did it for you. 4 cameras, motion activated, cloud storage. Brenda's face went pale. You had no right to record me in my own home, she said quickly. That is illegal. That is invasion of privacy. I turned to look at her. This is my home too. Or at least that is what you promised when you took my $180,000. Derek's head snapped toward me. What? We will get to that. I pressed play. The video was crystal clear. Morning light, the front yard, the workers carrying boxes from the garage, Brenda standing on the porch, arms crossed, watching. Derek leaned forward. His hands were gripping his knees. The camera captured everything, every box, every item thrown carelessly onto the grass. The wedding album hitting the ground. My grandfather's watch glinting in the sunlight before disappearing into the pile. And then the audio. It is just trash. You should have thrown it away years ago. Derek's face changed. I watched the realization spread across his features like a crack spreading through ice. Brenda, he whispered. What is this? It is out of context, she said immediately. He provoked me. He has been impossible to live with. I was just trying to… Keep watching, I said. The video continued. Chloe running out in her pajamas, crying, screaming for her mother to stop. Brenda grabbing her arm and dragging her inside. Derek stood up. That is our daughter, he said. His voice was shaking. You dragged our daughter away from my father while she was crying and begging you to stop. She was hysterical. She needed to calm down. She needed her mother to act like a human being. I paused the video. It was time. There is more, I said. I pulled out the folder I had brought from Harold's house, copies of the credit card statements, the receipts I had photographed with my phone. $180,000, I said, laying the papers on the coffee table. That is what I got when I sold my home. The home where I raised you, Derek. The home where your mother and I spent 30 years together. I gave you every penny because you said you were drowning in debt. You said you needed help with the mortgage. Derek picked up the papers. His hands were trembling. $23,000 for a handbag, I continued. $800 a month for a BMW lease. $12,000 for a vacation to the Bahamas. A vacation I noticed that I was not invited to. Dad, I did not know. I believe you. And I did. That was the worst part. My son was not evil. He was just oblivious, too trusting, too in love with a woman who did not deserve him. I turned to Brenda. She was still sitting in the armchair, but she had shrunk somehow. She looked smaller, less sure of herself. I gave you everything, I said quietly. My home, my savings, my dignity. And you treated me like garbage. You isolated me from my granddaughter. You spent my money on luxuries while making me feel like a burden. And today you threw my wife's memory out onto the lawn like it was nothing. Mark, I am not finished. I took a breath. I am not going to sue you. I am not going to call the police. I am not even going to ask for my money back because I know you have already spent it. Derek made a sound, half sob, half groan. But I am done being invisible. I am done being treated like trash in my own son's house, and I am done letting you poison this family. I looked at Derek. It is your choice, son. It always has been. But I need you to understand something. A man who does not stand up for his father is not much of a man at all. The room was silent. The only sound was the television frozen on an image of Chloe's tear-streaked face. Then Derek turned to his wife. "Get out," he said. Brenda's eyes went wide. "Excuse me. Get out of this house tonight. Go to your parents. Go to a hotel. I do not care where. But you are not staying here. You cannot be serious. I am your wife. That old man is manipulating you." Derek walked to the closet and pulled out Brenda's coat. He threw it at her. "You have 30 minutes to pack a bag. Anything you do not take tonight, I will have shipped to your parents." Derek, get out. I had never heard my son speak like that. Never seen that look in his eyes. In that moment, he reminded me of his mother. Linda always had that same quiet fury when someone she loved was being mistreated. Brenda must have seen it too because she stopped arguing. She grabbed her coat and her purse and headed for the stairs. "My family has lawyers," she said over her shoulder. "You will regret this." "I have the truth," I replied. "That is enough." She disappeared upstairs. I heard drawers opening and slamming, closet doors banging. And through it all, Derek stood there looking at the papers scattered on the coffee table like they were pieces of his broken life. Then a small voice came from the top of the stairs. Grandpa Chloe was standing there in her nightgown clutching something in her hands. Her eyes were red from crying, but she was not crying anymore. She walked down the stairs slowly, carefully. When she reached the bottom, she came straight to me and held out her hands. It was my grandfather's medal, the one from World War II, the one that had been in the box with all my other things. "I saved it," she whispered. "When Mommy was not looking, I went outside and found it. I knew it was important." I knelt down and took the medal from her. It was slightly bent and there was dirt on the ribbon. But it was here, in my hands, safe. "Oh, sweetheart," I said, and my voice broke. She threw her arms around my neck. "I'm sorry, Grandpa. I'm sorry Mommy was mean to you." I held her tight. Over her shoulder, I saw Derek watching us. There were tears in his eyes, too. "It is not your fault," I told her. "None of this is your fault." I meant it for both of them. Brenda left that night at 11:45. She called a taxi and loaded 2 suitcases into the trunk. She did not say goodbye to anyone. Not to Derek, not to Chloe, and certainly not to me. I watched from the window as the taillights disappeared down the street. I expected to feel victorious, satisfied. But mostly I just felt tired. Derek came to stand beside me. "Dad," his voice was hoarse. "I am so sorry. I should have seen it. I should have protected you." I put my hand on his shoulder. "You were blinded by love. It happens to the best of us. Your mother always said you had a big heart. Sometimes a big heart cannot see what is right in front of it." He broke down then, actually sobbed. My 32-year-old son standing in his expensive living room, crying like he had not cried since he was a child. I held him. The way I had when he was small. The way Linda would have if she were here. We will figure this out, I told him. Together. The way we always should have. The next few days were quiet. Good quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after a storm has passed. Derek took a leave of absence from work. He said he needed time to think, to process everything. I did not push him. He would talk when he was ready. The three of us fell into a new routine. I made breakfast in the mornings. Real breakfast, the kind Linda used to make. Eggs and bacon and toast with butter, not the pre-packaged meal service stuff Brenda had insisted on. Chloe helped me bring my things back inside. We went through each box together, and I told her the stories behind them. The tools that had built her father's childhood home. The photos of her grandmother laughing in the kitchen. The pocket watch that had traveled across Europe on her great-great-grandfather's wrist. She listened to every word, her eyes wide with wonder. "Grandpa," she said one afternoon, "can you teach me how to fix things like you taught Daddy?" I smiled. "I would love nothing more, sweetheart." The wedding photo was ruined beyond repair. The water had smeared Linda's face, turned her laughing features into a watercolor blur. I mourned it for a day. Then I took one of the other photos from the album, one that had survived, and put it in a new frame. It was a picture of Linda and me on our first anniversary. We were standing in front of our little apartment, the one we lived in before we could afford the house. She was wearing a yellow sundress. I was wearing a shirt I thought was fashionable at the time. We both looked so young, so hopeful, so certain that everything would work out. I put the photo in the living room, right in the center of the mantel, where it belonged. Derek came to me about a week later. "I talked to a lawyer," he said. "We were sitting on the back patio watching Chloe chase fireflies in the yard. And Brenda is fighting for half of everything, but the lawyer said that video changes things. It shows a pattern of behavior, emotional abuse, financial deception." He paused. "He thinks I have a strong case for full custody of Chloe." "What about the money?" I asked. Not because I wanted it back, just because I needed to know. "The lawyer is looking into that too. She spent most of it, but there are still some assets. He thinks we can recover at least part of it." I nodded. "And how are you feeling?" Derek stared at the grass for a long time, like I wasted 8 years of my life on someone who never really loved me. Like I failed you and Mom and Chloe. Like I have to start all over again. "Starting over is not failure," I said. "It is courage. Not everyone has the strength to admit they were wrong and try again." He looked at me. "Did you ever start over? After Mom died?" I thought about it. "I think I am starting over now. Right here. With you and Chloe." He smiled. The first real smile I had seen from him in weeks. "Then I guess we are in this together." "Always, son. Always. There is one more thing I need to tell you about." Harold passed away 3 weeks later. He went in his sleep peaceful and quiet. His housekeeper found him in the morning still in bed with a photograph of his wife on the pillow beside him. I was the one who gave his eulogy. Standing in front of a small crowd at the Veterans Cemetery, I talked about a man who understood loneliness and came out the other side with his dignity intact. See, Harold told me something once. I said, my voice steady despite the ache in my chest. He said a man's worth is not measured by what he gives away. It is measured by how he stands up for himself. I looked at the flag-draped coffin. Harold stood up for himself his whole life. He stood up for his country. He stood up for his family. And in the end, he stood up for me when I needed it most. I will never forget that. After the service, Derek and Chloe came to stand beside me at the grave. We stayed there until the sun started to set 3 generations, saying goodbye to a man who had made all the difference. It has been 6 months now. The divorce was finalized last week. Derek got full custody of Chloe. Brenda's lawyers tried to fight it, but the video was too damning. In the end, she had to return some of the money. Not all of it, but enough. Her parents found out what she did. I heard through the grapevine that they were ashamed, that they had always spoiled her, always given her everything she wanted, and now they were seeing the results of that for the first time. I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Brenda is living in an apartment now somewhere in Connecticut. She has to work for the first time in her life. I do not know what she does, and I do not care to find out. As for me, I am still here, in this house that finally feels like home. My room is still small, still next to the laundry room, but now it is filled with things that matter. Photos of Linda. My grandfather's watch repaired and running again. My tools cleaned and organized. Chloe's drawings cover one entire wall, a gallery of crayon masterpieces dedicated to the best grandpa in the world. I started a garden in the backyard. Roses, mostly. The same kind Linda used to grow at our old house. When they bloom in the spring, the whole yard smells like her. Every morning, I wake up at 6:30. Old habits. I make coffee and sit on the back porch, watching the sun come up. Sometimes Derek joins me. Sometimes Chloe runs out in her pajamas and demands breakfast. Either way, I am not alone. I think about Harold often. His words echo in my head whenever I face a difficult moment. Stand up for yourself. Know your worth. Do not let anyone treat you like garbage. I think about Linda too. Every single day. I imagine her watching from somewhere, smiling at the life I have built from the ashes of the one she left behind. I hope she is proud. I hope she knows that I kept my promise to take care of our boy. Some nights when the house is quiet and Chloe is asleep, Derek and I sit in the living room and talk. About everything. About nothing. About the past and the future, and all the things we never said when Brenda was in the way. We are closer now than we have ever been. And Chloe, she is thriving. She started kindergarten last month, and she loves it. And every day after school, she runs to me with stories about her friends and her teachers and the books they read in class. She asks me to tell her stories about Grandma Linda. She wants to know about the war medal and the pocket watch and why I decided to become an electrician. I tell her everything, every memory, every lesson, every moment that made me who I am. Because that is what family is supposed to do. Pass on the stories. Keep the love alive. Make sure the next generation knows where they came from. I forgave Brenda, not for her sake, for mine. Carrying that anger around was like carrying a stone in my pocket. It weighed me down. It kept me stuck in the past. And I realized that the best revenge was not hating her forever. It was living well, being happy, proving that she could not break me no matter how hard she tried. My worth is not measured by what I gave away. It is measured by how I chose to live after. Some storms come to destroy us, but the ones we survive, they make us who we were always meant to be. If you are listening to this, and you have ever felt discarded, forgotten, or treated like you do not matter, I want you to remember something. Your story is not over. The best chapters might still be ahead. You just have to keep turning the pages. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had someone in your life treat you like you were worthless only to prove them wrong in the end? How did you stand up for yourself? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button. It helps more than you know. And if you want to hear more stories like this about family, about betrayal, about finding strength when everything seems lost, go ahead and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you never miss a video. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it today. You never know who might be going through something similar. Your share could be the thing that gives them hope. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. And wherever you are tonight, whatever you are facing, I hope you find the courage to stand up for yourself. I hope you find the people who love you for who you really are. And I hope you never ever let anyone call your life trash. Take care of yourselves, and take care of each other. Until next time.